you've had everybody record there. Anybody that's anybody. And Jeezy record there, right?
Yep.
Gucci records there.
Yep.
Have they ever been there at the same time?
Yes.
Like while they were at war?
They was there before and after. They just didn't know.
What's going on, family? David Shands. I want to give you a special invitation to the Morning Meetup, themorningmeetup.com. It is the only organization that gathers every single morning, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we help you learn entrepreneurship, grow as an entrepreneur, become an entrepreneur, or you just get to be in an environment, a network of all entrepreneurs. Literally hundreds of entrepreneurs gather on a Zoom call every single morning, Monday through Friday, okay? So I want to give you a special invitation to help grow your business and your brand all this year, okay? Every single day. You eat every day for your health. You brush your teeth every day for your hygiene. I need you to learn and grow every single day for your mindset, okay? So make sure you go to themorningmeetup.com. It is only $1 trial. You don't need a promo code. Just go $1, themorningmeetup.com. Check it out. If you like us, stay. If not, after that, it's $79 a month. But I'm pretty sure you're going to enjoy yourself, okay? So go to themorningmeetup.com. I love y'all. See you in the morning.
The Social Proof Podcast. Streaming now on all platforms.
Welcome to another edition of the Social Proof Podcast, where you find people who have social proof that have actually built something. And today, we've got a true legend in the building. Do you get, like, how do you feel when people call you a legend? Like,
I'm adverse to titles, man. You know what I mean? I'm what my mama said. I'm no better than, no worse. I mean, I've come to accept the adjective on the front of the studio when they say the legendary, Patchwerk Studios. But for me, myself, I don't really be tripping on that. You know what I mean?
Well, we're going to dig into it, man. We got Kurt here, the founder, owner of the legendary Patchwerk Studios, man. Go on. I'll let you introduce yourself, then we'll jump into it.
Man, I'm Curtis Daniel III. I'm from Carson, California, which is in Los Angeles. It's right next to Long Beach. Grew up in a neighborhood called the Cabbage Patch. If anybody's familiar with LA, you know that every neighborhood belongs to someone. So our neighborhood, they were Bloods, and our gang was called the CPG, the Cabbage Patch Gangsters. So we wanted
Cabbage Patch Gangsters.
Before the dog, me and Bob wanted to put in work for the neighborhood, so we brought our name and came up with Patchwerk. And so we was putting in work for the patch. So y'all don't know all that, but if you run into somebody from Carson, they gonna tell you where the name came from. So the name of our neighborhood was the Patch. So putting in work for the Patch, and we just spelled it a little bit differently. So I always tell people all of the stuff, all of the things have meaning. So like that's why I'm kind of adverse to labels. So even the names of our studios and the rooms, they all have meanings. I mean, whether people know them or not, they do have meanings. So I'll give you, for instance, our small studio now is called Studio 995. And that's because the original building that we opened up in, the address was 995 McMillan Street, and we moved. We brought all the old equipment down there, and I actually took the address off the building, so we called that 995. Our big studio is called Studio 9000 because of the console we put in. We put a $1.3 million console. We were the first business in the United States to have that console, and still the only one in Georgia. So we named the room Studio 9000. The little smaller room
Where's the 9000 come
that's
from?
the big one. The console is the board. It's called the 9000 SSL.
Oh, gotcha.
So that's why we call it Studio 9000. And then the room that you do your voiceover work in is called Studio 1019. And nobody can figure that one out. 1019, October 19th is the day that me and Mike closed on buying the studio. So I needed a name, so I called it Studio 1019.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So all of it all ties back. That's why it really means something. So everything kind of means something.
All right. So walk with me how the studio came to be, like Patchwerk Studios.
So the studio, we started off as a record label. In 1993, we started our label. And people don't really, again, it's a subtle. If you looked at our two logos, one was Patchwerk Recordings, and then the other one was Patchwerk Recording Studio. So we started off as a record label in '93. Our homeboy OutKast is from Carson. He from the Patch. And Bob got drafted by the Falcons. Bob got drafted when he was like 19. He played his first game when he was 20. And on 3 different occasions, Bob was the highest paid lineman in NFL history.
Who is Bob?
Bob Whitfield. He played for the Falcons. People nowadays know him as Sheree's ex-husband from The Housewives.
Oh, got you.
And so Bob,
is that your partner?
Nah, so me and Bob went to kindergarten, elementary, junior high, and high school together. He got a football scholarship and went to Stanford, and I went to Michigan State, and we hooked back up. So me and Mike own the studio now. We bought it from Bob. So Bob...
Hold on, Bob had the studio.
Bob was the original owner, and then me and Mike bought it about 10, 11 years ago. So I've been running it since day one, but Bob owned it. Him and Sheree went through a bad divorce, and it messed everything up.
Gotcha.
So we had to buy it to save it. So Bob had all his money, and I thought Raz was the best rapper on earth. You young? Well, no, I can't say you young, but a lot of people. Yeah, so I still think Raz is the dopest, one of the dopest MCs. And Bob had bought some equipment and put it in his basement, and he was just not really using it. And I was like, you should send it to him because he's dope. And so that our naiveness of being Bob 20, I'm 19, Raz 17 or 18, we just thought that we were gonna cut a demo and go out and get a record deal. So we put Raz in the studio and he cut these songs and nobody wanted to sign them. And then us being young and naive, and I ain't gonna say dumb, but we just said, well, shit, we'll just start our own record label. We didn't know what we was doing. So we literally did what people are trying to do now. We recorded the songs, Bob paid for it. We pressed up vinyl, we pressed up CDs, we did all the artwork, and we hit the streets, man, real hard and promoted it. And Raz ended up getting a buzz, and it created a bidding war with every major label. We had Rick Rubin riding through Carson to pick Raz up in a Bentley back in '92. And so Raz ended up signing with Priority Records because that was the home of NWA, Ice Cube. And we did the first album with them, and the budget, we ended up spending about $260,000 on recording, studio time, and production and all that stuff. And then again, us being a year or two older, we was like, we should just do our own studio. And that's how the studio started. And originally I was supposed to manage Raz, and I had to give people perspective at the time. He ended up signing with a company called Crowbar Management, and that's Coolio's company. And what I tell people, Coolio is like Drake. That's how big he was. That singing that he was doing, he was the Drake. And so Raz's thing was, man, Kurt, you don't really know what you're doing. He got all these relationships. He's in the music industry. So he went over there, and that was cool. And really the studio was a throw to me, like, we got to find something for Curtis to do. So literally Bob came and picked me up from East Lansing. He got arrested when he came and picked me up because he was driving a truck that a dealer loaned him and didn't have any tags. He drove all the way from, picked me up, got arrested, and we drove back. And, you know, and I started running the studio. Didn't know what I was doing. And he gave me a book that I read and I still have, and I had to learn how to do everything. And one of the biggest impacts on me today is that, you know, I went out to I still, 25 years, I've never told anybody who it was, and I'm still not, because I ain't gonna dog nobody, but I went to a studio that was open, that was real popular at the time, and I met with the manager, and I was trying to get information on what to do, how to do stuff, and how to run a studio, and they wouldn't even tell me the prices. And it was like that back then. It was real clicked out, and so it forced me to read and figure out how to do it. And I always tell people, it left a scar on me to the point where I always said that if we ever get to the point where we're the biggest and one of the nicest studios, I was gonna change that and share the information. So to this day, if you look at a lot of studios, they look like ours, because if people are building studios, they come meet with me, I show them our plans, I tell them what to do and all this stuff or whatever. So yeah, that's how we got started, man.
Yeah, I'm building out a podcasting studio now, and Kurt was like, yo, just pull up. I give you everything I got.
Yeah, my thing was, Dave, is I always thought that, like, at the time, and what I always tell people, what makes us unique is that all the studios kind of prior to us, if you look at them even now, like a lot of the major studios are affiliated or they belong to an artist, a producer. They got money from a label, a publishing company. You know, we came in as a 100% commercial facility. We didn't have no artists. with a budget to fill up our room. We literally had to get people in there. So we've always been looked at as Atlanta's studio. So at the time, you know, Dallas had a studio which was dark, but you needed to be signed to Rowdy Records to work there. Jermaine had a studio, but you needed to be signed to So So Def. Bobby Brown had a studio, but you couldn't get in there, and if you had a relationship. So all these studios weren't available to the public. We came in and changed that game and was like, no, we were the neutral place. So if you were, you know, Lil Wayne did his first ever guest appearance on a Youngblood song. Well, he's gonna feel more comfortable coming to a neutral studio. You know, as you another artist and you competing, you ain't gonna wanna go, if you're trying to be better than OutKast or Dallas, you're not gonna go to his studio and think he's gonna get some of your sauce. So we were always Atlanta studio. So that's why even though all these people had studios and have studios, they still work at ours because we were the neutral ground.
Wow.
And so I always tell people our DNA is different because we never took money. And so I've always been in a position as the manager of the studio to, you know, tell labels to kiss my butt if I wanted to.
What you mean never took money?
We never took money. So a lot of these studios now, they got their funding from a record label.
Right.
And so it may look like it's one studio, but it's so, like, just to be frank, so like there's a Drama's Nim studio, Mean Street, that's Atlantic Records. Gotcha. That's their studio.
Right.
So that's who kind of funds stuff. So it's always somebody behind the scenes that's funding it. We got our own money. So like OutKast studio obviously came because they were artists. They got recording budgets. Dallas had a studio because he was a producer, and Jermaine got one or whatever. So all that money typically comes from a label, a publishing company, or something. We literally got the money from Bob playing football. So you know what I mean? So we've always been set up differently. So there's never really been a dog wagging our tail. We just been independent. So like, you know, like I tell people, you got to imagine in 93, we had our own record label. By 95, we had our own studio. We had put out 3 artist albums, and people thought we was crazy, but that's what they trying to do now.
Right.
We just always been cursed with being ahead of the game.
So Bob buys the studio. When he buys it, is there like an equal ownership share or anything like that, or he just buy it?
So here go the thing is, we like you. He rented a building right across the street from Georgia Tech. So the landlord was on the corner. We was right here, and there was a third building. So we was right on this corner of 10th and Hemp Hill. Same thing you just said when we walked in here. We went in and did all these repairs to the studios, and we had a 12-month lease, and we would want to buy it. And the landlord was playing games. Whenever we wanted to buy it, obviously, when we got to the end of the lease, we wanted to buy it.
Right.
He would make us renew the lease, and then he would want to sell it in the first month and collect. He wanted the sale price plus the 12 months of the lease. So it kept going back and forth, and we could never really get it. And I remember we had an awning on the outside of our building, and we had a storm one time, and the awning came down. And I called him. This was probably about our 3rd year there. And I was like, hey, man, the awning fell down. We need to get it repaired. And that's when he told me, well, I don't owe the building anymore. I was like, what are you talking about?
Oh, he sold it to somebody.
He sold it to Georgia Tech.
Oh.
And never told us. And he was kind of lying to Georgia Tech, like, oh, you don't want to let these people know they into this hip hop stuff. They may tear the building up. So we didn't know.
Wow.
That's I said, did you tell Bob? He said, I'm telling you now. And we had like 3 months to get out. And then I remember the Georgia Tech people came over and toured the place, and they met us. And they was like, you guys aren't so bad at all. And we didn't have nowhere to go. They allowed us to stay an extra 3 months. And Bob literally went down the street. So the old studio is probably about 400 yards from where we are.
Oh, wow.
And he found the building that we in now. And the only reason we got that building is because it was one person in that whole building. He was a photographer, Mike Terabula. And he used to, one of his biggest clients was Coke, this is a Coke town. And back then, he had came up with this concept where, I don't know if you remember, they had these drink machines that looked like the sodas were popping out. They looked like they was 3D. And Coke borrowed the idea without his permission, to say it nicely, and he tried to sue him. And he couldn't get an attorney in Atlanta. I remember he asked us for an attorney, and he got blackballed. So he couldn't get any work, so he had to leave his building. So we had to get out, and he had to get out, and we found that building. And it looked like your 3rd grade teachers. He had a dark room in there. The whole back was just a warehouse. I remember he had a coffin in the basement. It was crazy.
Wow.
And so we literally had to go in and gut it out and do all this stuff. And just to get our footing set that's why we just brought all the equipment from the old studio and put it in there so we can reset.
Gotcha.
And then it took us a year and a half just to get the drawings of the back room, and then we had to build that out.
Wow.
And so, now people always tell me, they was like, man, I remember you was telling me what y'all was gonna do, and it was gonna be glass here, and you was gonna be able to go upstairs. He said, man, I thought you was full of shit. I thought you was just talking. I hear so many people talk about what they gonna do, but y'all really did it. And so we spent the $115,000 on just the drawings.
Wow.
Just the drawings. Then we spent 1.3 on the console, 76,000 on the speakers, 300,000 on the outboard gear, and then we probably spent about another 1.3 just on the construction.
So in terms of the business, right? So Bob has the money, right?
We started, yeah.
And did he buy the building or just start leasing the building?
So we got burned. So obviously
Right.
we wasn't gonna do that again.
Right.
So we went and got a mortgage on the building.
Got you. We ain't got a mortgage. Does Bob own it or is this y'all own it?
No, it's all so on there. So here's what happened, man. I'm gonna tell you what happened. So because it was public, I'm gonna talk about it. So people that watch them shows, here's your blessing. So Bob was going through his divorce with Cher. And they had a big ass house over on Long Island Drive, and they came to some sort of agreement where they were going to sell the house. And this is the time when the real estate was going bad, the stock, everything happened. And
what year was
around
this?
9/11 probably. All that stuff
gotcha.
happened. And so anyway, Bob gave her a whole bunch of money, over $700,000. It's in the court record, so I ain't saying nothing new, to move out, go get a new place so he can fix that house up and sell it. Sheree didn't move out and kept his money, and he got pissed off. So he's like, I'm going to get her back. I'm not going to pay the mortgage. So he didn't pay the mortgage, right? Well,
She just kept the bread.
Well, so here's the thing. So he didn't pay the mortgage. It went into default. Now, when you in business, your personal stuff is you guarantee the business. So his personal stuff started affecting the business. And then they tried to call in one of our lines of credit. We didn't have the money to pay it. So I loaned them some money. We paid it. And then they tried to, while we was trying to get the money to pay the line, we fell behind on the note. And then the people was trying to repossess the studio. And so me and
y'all
Mike
almost lost Patchwerk.
Me and Mike put up the money and bought it from him. That's how we own the place. So we don't, like I always tell people, if it was my dream, then Bob would still be owning the studio, we'd be straight, and I would still be managing it. But we had to buy the studio because they was trying to take it. Like literally when, I'll give you this, I'm gonna give you this as so say if we owed $30,000 for our monthly payment, and it was due on, it's December now, right? It's due on January 1st.
Right.
And so they we want our money, or we calling in the whole loan. And then we telling them, hey, here's a letter from the bank. Me and Mike approved for the whole over $3 million that we buying it from Bob for, $3.5 million. We approved for it. Here it is. We're going to close on January 15th. They like, nah, if you don't pay this on December 31st, we taking the building. That was after they came and looked at it, and they saw all the stuff in there, so they wanted the asset. So they tried to take it. So we had to pay the note. We like, here go the letter. You're going to get all the money. We only owe y'all X amount. We're going to give you this and be done. You can have it all on the 15th. And so they was trying to take it. And so, it was rough, man, but we got through it. And, the crazy part, when we went to closing, Sheree's attorney had a lien on the building. And, yeah, man. And then.
What?
Yeah, so then we had to get through that. Her and Bob worked that out somehow. And then when we got the building within 8 months, we was getting sued from her attorney.
Oh,
so
my goodness.
we as me and Mike got sued, Bob got sued, the closing. So we had closed title insurance. So the title insurance paid something, and we agreed to pay, I think, $12,000 to get removed, and that let us finally be clear of that mess.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So we, we made it through that, and yeah, now it's probably about 12 years ago.
Goodness gracious. All right, so you're building this studio. You've seen a lot in terms of Southern hip hop, right? And anybody has recorded in your studio, right?
Yep.
What was the first time you had like a major artist where maybe you were shocked, like, yo?
Well, the crazy part about it is that I always say, and I don't say this just to use a name, but our very first client paid session was OutKast. That was our very first client.
What year was this?
95. We missed the first album. They put Southern Playalistic out in 93. We opened in July 95. So we worked on elevators, me and you, equipment, all of that stuff. We did
Equipment was the album.
Yeah, AT Aliens was the album.
AT Aliens,
That was the second album. So we did elevators and all of that stuff.
And y'all recorded that.
Yeah. That was our first client. So we went from OutKast, so we was doing organized noise. So that was OutKast, then we went to Goody Mob, then we went to PA, then we went to Society of Soul, all that stuff. And then they was doing remixes for Janet Jackson. So we got to work on all of that stuff. And so that was our first client, and that was deliberate. I mean, it was a hustle. We found out that they were Rico Wade and them was big Atlanta Falcons fans. And our studio was only about 3 miles away from the Georgia Dome.
Right.
And I found a manager, which is Dee Dee Hibbler, and I asked them, did they want to go to the game? And of course they said, yeah. And I was like, how many tickets? They wanted like 23 tickets. Yikes. So she wanted to come pick up the tickets. And I said, nah, anybody going to the game got to come to the studio and pick up their own tickets. And so they came to the studio, and because we were so close and people didn't want to pay for parking, they left some of their cars there. Carpooled. I made them do a tour of the studio. And then after the game, we came back. Some of them had to use the restroom, and we literally started working the next day.
Wow.
That's how we go. And then, you know, the idea, my thinking behind it was at the time was that they're going to sell 3 million records, and everybody read the credits on the CDs. And if they read that they did this work at Patchwerk, it's going to give us credibility, which it did. And that was our first client. And so we went right downhill from there, like everybody looking like, oh, they did this here. We want this type of sound, and boom. So we started doing a lot of stuff for LaFace, man, everything, man. And it just, whatever decade or whatever you want to pick, we was doing them. And I always tell people, it's easy when people made it to kind of work with people, but I take pride in doing the first album. So,
gotcha.
And I'll say like the first 2 or 3 albums. So, you know, Sierra, nobody knew who Sierra was. She was a little teenager, whole first album. Nobody knew who Chris Bridges was. That was ludicrous. Nobody knew who Lil Jon was. Nobody knew who Jeezy was. Nobody knew who Tip was. Nobody knew who the Young Bloods were. Wow. All these projects we done like they first 2 or 3 albums and stuff like that. So, you know, we get a lot of clients that come in. We probably got about 200 or 300 gold and platinum plaques on the wall. We probably got about another 160 more because of the streaming that we hadn't ordered. And I always try to tell people, you know, they be in awe, and I be like, they was just like you when we started working with them. We gonna work with you to make you sound like that. Nobody knew who they were. Yeah. And so, you know, if you look at what we do, a lot of our marketing and promotion is geared towards independent artists. And so
because you know what they're going to become.
Well, we don't, but that first album, everything is judged. Sonically, creatively, they gotta be able to compete with Rick Ross. Yeah. They gotta go from A to B. So sonically, like, you're gonna bring creatively what you bring. We can't control that. But sonically, we're gonna make your shit hit like everybody else.
And what are the big difference between, okay, you have a good studio and you have a good studio? I mean, does the album come out the same, or like, what is
we don't. We've never sold or marketed the studio. We've always sold customer service. And so, you know, we have the best equipment, period. You know what I mean? You're not gonna tell me that I'm gonna run something through my $1.3 million board, and I'm gonna go through all of the power that's been conditioned and treated, and then I'm gonna run through about $30,000 worth of preamps, and then I'm gonna run it through.
You said the power was conditioned.
Yeah, so we got different. If you ever looked at the studio, we probably got about 8 different power breakers. So our power comes into the building, and then our rooms are on separate power grids. And then we clean up the power and run them on UPSs, so uninterruptible power supplies. So like in here, when the air clicks on, the lights may dim. That's a brownout. We don't have no brownouts. Our power just stay the same. So if you ever come to shoot at the studio, you would notice our plugs, there'll be some with triangles. That's our clean power. We don't let anybody plug any lights or anything in there because that transforms noise onto the music. So all of our equipment and computers and outboard gear and mics is on clean power. Y'all using regular power, right? We don't, you turn on the vacuum cleaner at your house, the power dip. When you mixing or working at your house, you think you got your record sounding great. You go away and eat a sandwich and come back and it sound different. It is different because you got noise on it and it's changing. So if you ever was at the studio, you would go in our mastering room and look at these power regulators and they just doing this. The numbers are changing like a lottery ball all day. That's the power changing, but our power works like this. So we dealt with everything. Like our air conditioners ain't on the roof, they on springs. So when they click on, they don't vibrate. Our air conditioner, you can't hear it like that. It falls out. We had engineers come in and design our air conditioner. They measure the heat and the air load. So it's a whole bunch of things in there that are treated, and then the rooms are tuned. So what you hear is what you hear. You don't need to go check it in the car. So it's a whole bunch of things that add up to stuff or whatever. So like I said, I can give you the same mic, but we're gonna have a different mic cable. And like I tell people, just think about like if you use your Mac, right? When you're just using it without no cord, when you put the cord on, what does it do?
It's brighter.
It's brighter. Well, we got bigger cords. We got better power. We treating, so that's why I be telling people, you can buy this microphone, but our microphone, before it hits our recorder, is going through a $20,000 vocal chain. It ain't gonna be the same. And then our room that you in is treated. And like I tell people, like if you don't think the room matters, every time you on the phone talking to your friend and you walk in the bathroom, they say you just went in the bathroom, because they can hear all the reflections of your voice. So all of that stuff adds up, and it comes out different. So we can take, I'll be thinking of verses, and I'll be like, I want to do one with a studio. Give us one record and give everybody the same record. And let us go record it, mix it, and master it, and then we gonna play it.
Right.
But see, the thing is, y'all not hearing it on nothing where you gonna hear the difference. But like I tell people, there's a difference, and it feels different. And it's just like when somebody say, hey man, I got a treadmill and elliptical at home, but nigga, it feel different when you go to the gym.
Yeah.
You work harder, you lift better, and then I think Banner always say there's spirits in the studio. So all of those people done left. Beyonce done left a little something. Alicia Keys done left a little something. Jay-Z, Pimp C, you know what I mean? All them people that walk through them hallways have left a little bit of something. And it's something to be said to be in a space where you feel free and clear enough to express them thoughts that you're saying. I stole a KP always say that. You gotta feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable. And we provide that atmosphere. You come to the studio, man, we got runners. You don't have to leave. You got knowledgeable engineers that have graduated with degrees that have went through our intern programs, and people are happy to see you there. And there ain't no guesswork. You don't have to wonder if this audio is gonna sound right. So you have supreme confidence when you on a stage in front of 30,000 people, when you hit play, you know your shit gonna sound right. As opposed to if one of the homies do it at the house, it might sound good in the car, but not in the club. It might sound good on ear pods. You know what I mean? So we eliminate all of that stuff, and that comes out in the work. You hear the work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, so you've been really in the game. First off, you've been doing this for decades now.
25 years. We just made 25 years in July.
So you learned a whole lot about sound and the differences and things of that nature, right?
Yeah, man. I was just in my car the other day and I was laughing because I was hearing something. I said, I can hear when the balance is off. And all my speakers was, when I looked, everything was put to the front, because last time my daughter was in the back, I had cut it off. And if I get in somebody's car and it's off, or the treble, so I was laughing because I was like, it's damn. So it's spoiled for me. It's almost like my friend's a chef and he can't really go eat nowhere because he can taste all the spices. So it's hard for me. So when somebody send me a song, I'm not listening to the song first. I'm sonically hearing it. And if it ain't pleasing to my ear, I can't really listen to it. Like it's bad, like it hurts. So it's like, man, I'll be like, man, I gotta adjust this. And so the first thing, if somebody asks me for something, the issue is gonna be, I think you creative, I think you dope, but sonically your record ain't hitting. Like it sounds like somebody throwing razor blades at my ear. I gotta turn the treble all the way down. Your vocals are too low, the mix is whatever. And so I always preface people like, hey man, this is where we can help. The creative stuff is on you. So I hear stuff a little bit differently.
So are you still in the gang, or like, how does that work?
So I've never done music. I've never done any music. Now I work from my hours are 10 to 2. I don't even have an office. And so Toya and Oz are the managers, and they kind of do all the billing and stuff like that. But
I mean, I'm talking about from putting in work at the Patch. I
was never in a gang. So in LA, you either gonna be in a gang, or you gonna do music, or you gonna play sports. We were the athletes.
Gotcha.
Raz did the music, me and Bob did the sports, and the other homies was banging. So just out of respect of your friends that have died over that stuff, it means a lot. Like, I mean, I can't write with a blue Sharpie.
Right.
I mean, really? I got a bunch of bandanas. I got green, gray, black, red. I don't have no blue one.
Right.
I mean, I never banged, but that's my neighborhood, and I know a bunch of friends that, you know, that was into that. So it's out of respect. You know what I mean?
Did you ever have to bring like that street mentality to the music industry?
Yeah. We used to be like that, man. I had to send some of my gangsters homies up the priority before.
What?
Yeah, they had booked studio time and they didn't want to pay because we was in Atlanta. And so I called one of my Crip homeboys because when we played football, we played with different neighborhoods as Bloods and Crips and SAs. And I was so pissed off. I said, you can have the money. They owe me this amount of money. It's yours. He went straight up the priority to collect that money, and they wired it the next day, and I sent him his money. You know what I mean? And then, you know, and then when we first started, yeah, we used to whoop. I ain't gonna cuss, but yeah, if people didn't pay their studio bill, we went to see them.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I would go to the
like
clubs.
The Atlanta Suge Knight, love it.
Yep. That's how in the music industry you always had to have the muscle. Because remember, we had a record label side in the studio. So if you a record label side and you pay somebody to do a job, a promoter, a manager, and they don't do their job, you don't have any legal course per se. You got to beat somebody's butt. That's why everybody, so like I always tell people, when it got bad for us is when they got rid of the gangsters. They got rid of Suge Knight. They got rid of Dame Dash. They kind of got rid of Master P and tried to get rid of Cash Money. Them was all the street dudes that made sure everybody was straight, and then they started getting the little soft people in there and putting them in position, and that's when this finesse started happening. But back in the days, you know, NWA and them used to they tear up the offices. You know what I mean? And they would just charge it back to their budget and fix it.
But you're saying that was a help for the game because it kept people in line.
Yeah, I mean, that's when the niggas was running it. It was, you know, like I said, think of Dame Dash and what they mad at him because they was able to split his team and get Jay to come. But all he was doing was fighting for Jay-Z. Like when on the video, like y'all got him wearing a Def Jam jacket. He ain't signed a Def Jam. Y'all just do distribution. That's the hustle. They got rid of all the aggressive people. Think about it. You gotta imagine how many artists, if you go on online and look at Interscope or Airstore or Atlantic or Sony, they probably got 200 artists. Suge Knight probably had 10, and 9 of them was triple platinum. Cash Money got 6, and 6 of them double platinum. Them niggas was hitting home runs, and like I keep telling people, 3 million times $20. That's what they were selling on CDs. Right? What's the problem with Suge Knight? He winning. Like he man, who got the Dog Pound, Rage, Snoop, Daz, Corrupt, Tupac, soundtracks for above whatever the movies he doing.
Right.
And every time you put something out, man, you making all that money, you got to be able to work with that. And then Dame didn't do nothing wrong, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Those are the strong people that they don't want in arguing about what you got going on. You know what I mean? And so it's like So
you're saying you need somebody like that on your team to is it an enforcer?
You need somebody looking at that paperwork, and you need somebody to scare people. Like, because right now, the way people do stuff now is they have beef and be in the same club. Back then, if you owed me money and I saw you, we was fighting. And I done fought people. I done fought people, and they come pay me the next day. Like for real, you know what I mean? So we would go out. We would go out and be looking for people. You know what I mean? And that's what if they didn't fear you, they wouldn't pay you. And so nowadays we had to stop. You know, somebody pressed charges against me. That's what stopped me.
Really?
Yep. I had to go to court.
What happened? Tell me the story. Are you able to talk about the story?
Yeah, but I ain't gonna say who it is because we patched it up. So
is this somebody notable?
Nah. We friends now, and but somebody was doing something, stealing from the studio, and somebody, the lady that first brought OutKast told me. We was doing CD pressing, and she was like, "Curtis, I called up there to put an order in to get 3,000 CDs, and your receptionist sent me to some other company." I'm like, "What?" And so she was like, "Yeah, it's done happened a couple times," and she sending me somewhere else or whatever. So I called my old girlfriend from LA and asked her to call up there and try to place an order of 10,000 CDs. And the girl at the front desk sent her to this dude that used to work for me, that I hooked him up with my homeboy that was doing CDs. And And so I confronted her and threw her out, and she left, right? And I didn't know nothing about that. And then I looked up where his office was, so I went over there like I do. And then, I kind of got in, and the first dude I saw, my hands kind of got around his neck a little, and I threw him up on the counter.
You didn't even know the guy?
Nah, I was looking for somebody, and I was like, when he started talking, I said, what? And then I threw him up on the counter and knocked over some computers, and then I went, and then I seen the girl that was working for me, and I didn't even know she was working there. And so I'm looking for the dude, and thank God he wasn't there. And so he wasn't there, and and it was my homeboy's company that I played ball with at Michigan State, and them dudes pressed charges. I went to court, and I had an attorney and whatever, and I remember I went in there, and this is where I learned the lesson. And the judge bounded over from the state court to something else and was like, that's some type of felony. He said, if you holding somebody against their will, if you grab somebody by their belt buckle and count to 3, that's holding somebody against their will. And he sent it over. And so I was stuck. And so it took about 4 or 5 years. I never could get my court case. And then I hooked up with a friend of mine that was the second in charge of the DA, and they got it. I said, look, man, I've been trying to go to court for 5 years. And the people came to court. That's when I was really surprised. Like, y'all really trying to do this or whatever? And so we got it thrown out, and I remember I went over to the little thing and got it off my record, and I felt like I had got my slave papers, and that was the last time I was able to. And now I'll tell you this, it was another DJ that was owed me a little bit of money, and it was about the principal. He was like, man, I know other people, you tripping over this. And I asked him, I said, man, come over here and talk to me. Let me talk to you so you can understand where I'm coming from. Like, you younger, you must don't understand it. Like, if you tell me I extended you credit, you said you're going to come see me on Friday, and you don't show up and you don't call, and then I call you 3 other times, you keep telling me the same thing, that ain't really how I get down. So I literally, and I put this on my daughter, I called my attorney and I said, what'll happen if I beat this dude up? And he was like, you can't do that no more. I didn't own the studio before. I said, man, what is it gonna take? He was like, you can't do it. And so I sent my homeboy over there. My homeboy about 6'5", he probably weighed about 380. And I sent him up to Hot 107.9. I ain't gonna say the DJ. And he came and saw me the next day. And I told him, I said, you don't come up here within the day, I'm gonna tell this dude this his money, and he gonna collect it from you. And he was like, man, you sending niggas up here. I said, you better bring me my money. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's like, I done had run-ins with a whole bunch of people. People talk mess and they get disrespectful towards the staff. And I'd be like, man, I'm at the studio. Come on up here. A dude from Florida, well-known dude. He a little gangster. I guess he thought I was a buster. And I'm like, man, I'm here from 10 to 7 every day. Come on up here. Come on up here right now. And one of my other homeboys talked to him, was like, man, Kurt, like, so we cool now. But, that's how we roll. Like, I always tell people, the team take on the personality of the head coach. And I've been head coaching. Bob was the GM. I always been the head coach. And I ain't got no bitch in me. I'm not one of them people, man. Like, I don't have a problem. Like, if we don't get along, just stay away from me. Like, I'm not one of them people that like if you're gonna do something to me, we're not gonna be friends on Instagram and whatever. It's what it is. Just leave me alone. You know what I mean?
And in business, that tactic works.
Business is like I tell people, I am who I am. It is what it is. We here to do a job, right? So before, that's how so then now over the years, you get your processes better. Your price range goes out of a place where you ain't dealing with a certain amount of riffraff. And then a lot of stuff we do is label work with purchase orders and stuff like that. Now we done sued a gang of people, and they done I done got threatened from I ain't gonna say the artist. I'm gonna say the label from Sony. Somebody owed me some money, and I told the manager, because we have a collection agency. I said, look, man, we got a relationship. You saying this producer's supposed to pay for it. He's saying y'all supposed to pay for it. It's your album. I'm trying to resolve this because you going to get mad when these collection people start calling you. And when they start calling, you don't do nothing, then we going to sue you. And she didn't believe me. And so as soon as it started going, she didn't do nothing. She didn't respond. We filed the paperwork. Then she called me. And they didn't talk to me for like a year and a half, man. Our relationship still ain't the same. And this is a big artist.
Wow.
Now she back in the studio, but it messed things up. And I was like, man, it ain't me. So then here we go, right? So here go the funny part. So I think it was about $14,000, right? And so then Sony they get their attorneys on it, and they call us, me and Mike, and they like, hey man, we got this bill here, it's $14,000. How about we give you guys $5,700 and call it a day? And then Mike calls me. He's like, man, I'm about to tell this dude to go F this. I said, go ahead. We ain't taking that. So then they threatened us. They say, if you guys don't accept this payment, we're never going to have another Sony artist record at your studio. We said, we don't give a damn. We want all our money. So we got all of our money, and they can't control them artists. We've been in the game too long. They just in the office. These artists need to go where they need to be, whatever. And then so we sued them. And whatever. We got another judgment. I ain't going to say. I think we got a judgment for about $125,000. I'm still trying to collect.
Really?
To this day. Yeah, man. And
is it looking like you're going to get it?
I mean, they done start paying on it a couple times and stuff. And, it's just my character. I could have got the person probably like about 2 months ago. I could have had them served. But I always tell people, if I'm going to go to war, I will declare war first. And I haven't had a chance to declare war. He's texted me and asked me for something. I told him I couldn't give it to him, and I said, I need to talk to you. Yeah. And I said, and he tried, I said, I can't, it's not a telephone conversation. Yeah. We need to talk man to man so I can tell you what the issues are. And he would never come or whatever. And so one day he was a guest on a podcast at our studio, and I knew he was coming ahead of time. And I have a private investigator that's been trying to serve him, but I felt it was female dog-like to set him up without declaring war. So I will tell you, like, I'm going to warn you, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you what it's going to be before I just do it. And so my other homeboy's like, I don't understand why you didn't say. I said, because I wasn't going to mess up the vibe of this. That would be like David booked the studio. He brought this guest in there. I ain't finna tell David his business because out of respect for this person, he's one of our biggest people. And and then I ain't gonna just mess up the interview and kill the vibe or wait till he done. That would be female dog characteristics to me. So I need to have a conversation with him and say, hey man, we at war.
I declare war.
And now it's fair. So when I do what I gotta do, you can't really trip on me like that. You know what I mean?
Speaking of which, you've had, literally
and let me say this. So here's the difference. So Mike, my partner now, Mike used to work at the studio, so he's been owning the studio about the last 10 years with me. So our perspective is different. So my perspective is I've seen these people when they paid good and when it went bad and whatever, so I treat them accordingly. I look at the whole person and be like, man, Dave been working here for 15 years. He hit a bad spell. He ain't pay me. My partner be ready to just dog him. And I be like, nah, man, he did this much good and built up this goodwill. And out of respect for who they are in the industry, we're not going to embarrass these people. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how we roll. So we be battling with that or whatever, because I don't want to do people like that. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And again, like kind of touching on the I declare war thing, you've had everybody record there. Anybody that's anybody. And Jeezy record there, right?
Yep.
Gucci records there.
Yep.
Have they ever been there at the same time?
Yes.
Like while they were at war?
They was there before and after. They just didn't know. I mean, we keep that middle door closed. So we would literally have a staff meeting. I mean, it's been like that when Manny was beefing with Cash Money. They was in there at the same time. They just didn't know.
Really?
Yeah. Gucci and them a couple times. We would just be like, or it might be Young Thug and somebody, and we literally be like, do not open that middle door. And, so all of our sessions are private. So if you in a room, you don't know who on the other side. Yeah. Right? And if we know y'all got a problem, we going to say that you got to go out the back. Yeah. And then when them people over there, you got to go out this way or whatever. So, yeah. You know what I mean? And I was telling people, that particular thing, we've had, they tried to call us for verses to do the Rick Ross and the 2 Chainz ones. Ludacris called me when he went against Nelly. We was just booked. We couldn't do them. And I didn't want to do the.
Where would you do it? In that middle area?
It would have been up to them. We could have either did it in the control room or the live room.
All right.
And but then for this one, I did want to do it, and so I reached out.
That would have been epic. They did it, Magic City.
I reached out to Tip when it was Tip and whatever, and then he never hit me back. And then so I reached out to Jeezy and them, and I reached out to Gucci and them, and then I reached out to Apple, and they was like, "Damn, that would be epic," but we already got a committed spot or whatever. And we had cleared off the whole building. So we wanted to do something. We would have put one in one room, one in the other, come together, whatever, you know what I mean? But
you would have separated.
We cleared
them.
the whole building. No, they would have came together, but it would have been dope for them because they used both rooms.
Yeah.
So they could have been in one room, was like, I did this room here, and it would have just been more stories.
Yeah.
And or they would have did it in one, but it was weird because I felt my staff hit me up the night they announced it. I woke up at 4 and I had a whole bunch of texts and DMs like, we need to do this here. And then I felt to myself that I did do an honest effort. I did contact the people to try to get it. And it was kind of like, I tell people, it was kind of like when your homeboy fly in town and you be like, hey man, if you need me to pick you up from the airport,
sure.
but you be hoping he don't want you to come get him. You know what I mean? So I was kind of hoping because it's a lot of technical stuff. It's a lot of pressure. And I just wanted to enjoy it. And what I tell people is like the people on the other end of the phones and TVs that was watching it, they were so stressed out when they was up there. Imagine how you feel when you in the studio, when Gucci in the studio within 2 days after killing the dude. And we in the studio with BMF with the pistols and the guns and the money and the 30 cars. And so it brought back a whole bunch of emotions and it was a lot of relief. And I didn't have the relief until Gucci put the microphone down when Jeezy was talking, and I said, thank God he heard him, finally, because he was still yelling, "Oh, we dick your homeboy up, partner, we can do." And then he finally heard him, and then what I tell people is the most powerful moments is when he stood up at the end and he saluted Jeezy and said, I respect you, I got no problem. And I said, damn, it's over. Yeah. And it just brought up, it was so many people that was—
Because you remember back then.
Yeah, it was a lot of people that was calling me or texting me afterwards. They used to work at the front desk and work the night, and it was like, man, it was some stressful ass sessions. And the engineers, and we had Gucci when Gucci was on one. Before he went to jail, we've had a couple artists that the labels, they didn't, that's how they kept him out of jail, Gucci. They would book the studio for 15, 25 hours, and he would just sit in there. And that was before he was on one. That's when he was riding around slapping people. If he wasn't in trouble, it's because he was in the studio. And then typically for him, they would call me probably about 3-4 days before he got out, and we would set up his sessions. So I would always kind of know when he was coming out. The time Tip went in, we provided space for him to come lay down because he was on a work permit, and so he used to ask us to open up the studio at 8 in the morning so he can leave and come and lay on the couch till noon, because we wouldn't start no session that early, but he needed to be at a workplace. So,
Oh, got you. So when Tip was locked up, he would be able to do work release.
Yeah, because he would say, I'm going to the studio. But he ain't nobody doing no studio at 8 o'clock in the morning. But we would open it up. He would lay down in the lounge, sleep, relax, and then maybe start working in the afternoon or whatever. You know what I mean? But those are relationships, man. We've been building and forging those for a long time, whatever.
Give me some of your tightest relationships in the industry.
All of them. I talk to Banner, a little bit more, and Bone Crusher. I tend to kind of gear towards the older guys because I want to make sure that we respect them. Yeah. What's his name? FaceTime Scarface about 3 weeks ago, and I damn sure didn't even know if Scarface remembered my name, and he literally was like, "Kurt, man, y'all have my all-time favorites." He said, "Give Kurt the phone." Man, I done been all over the world, man. I ain't just saying this now, man. I tell you, man, that's the best studio in the world. I love coming in there. My music come out of there. I tell everybody or whatever. And then, I will say some of my favorite sessions, because I'm from LA, is, I must say one of my favorites, we did Dre for a week.
Really?
Yeah, he came in and I remember he came in on a Sunday. And the biggest problem we had is he wanted 2/5 of Tanqueray, and Atlanta was a dry town on Sundays. You couldn't buy liquor.
Oh yeah, it just turned.
So man, I had to call the dude that managed Jeezy now is Solomon. He was running Justin's. So we went to Justin's and got 2 big ass 5ths of Tanqueray, and then we replaced them on Monday. And we used to work together like that. So Solomon used to do stuff. We was kind of like, our kinship was, we working for these stars or famous people, but we the ones that's doing the work. So if I needed something, Solomon, man, I need some jerk wings. They wouldn't do takeout orders. We would get them. He catered our 10-year anniversary. Then we did Farrakhan was there for a week. That was a trip because he played the violin.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Farrakhan recorded at
I sat like
Studios.
this. I sat like this for 2 days. I sat literally next to him. And, he played a violin. He did an album. It's like a box set. It came out like a year and a half ago. We did his parts and stuff at the studio.
Really?
So he got like Stephanie Mills, Snoop Dogg, Rick Ross. He got an album, and he playing the violin. So we sitting in there. Before they come, the brothers come.
Yeah.
They sweep your building and do all that stuff. Sure. And then I remember Giovanni from Antico, he's like, man, you got the fucking Secret Service over there? Who's in the studio this day? I never seen no rappers trail like that. I said, man, that's Farrakhan. So they come in, and I remember it was a trip because he was talking. We was talking, and he was telling me all kind of stuff. He was telling me Michael Jackson stories, Quincy Jones. He was telling me stories from the 70s on, and then he was like, you need to have a kid. I didn't have no kid at the time. People like you need to have more than one kid. When I come back, you better be done had 3 kids. So anyway, he talking, and he say he thirsty. So we bring him some water. The brothers picked that water up and moved it out, went to the cooler, gave him his water. I said, oh, they ain't playing.
What?
Yeah, they ain't playing.
Wow.
Yeah, they travel with his food, water. They ain't drinking none of your water. I don't care if it's in a bottle or not. They ain't playing. Yeah. So Farrakhan, and then me personally, when I was in high school, the way I used to relax, I used to listen. I had a cassette. I used to listen to Regina Bell. Make it like it was. It would play through. I remember I popped my tape. So we did Regina about 4 or 5 times, and I had too much respect to speak to. I was scared of Regina Bell.
Really?
I was scared. Regina Bell was like Sade to me.
You done saw the Beyonce's, the Jay-Z's.
Look, so it took about the 6th time she was in the office paying, and I just went in and told the story. I said, Miss Regina, how you doing? I'm Curtis. I'm one of the owners of the studio. She's like, oh, hey, I done been here a bunch of times. I never met you. I said, yeah, I done seen you. I was scared to talk to you. Why? I said, I told her. She hugged me, and so then we cool. I got her number in the phone. I met her daughter, and she works there. So that was that. Now I was married before my wife passed, and when we got married to Patti LaBelle songs. When she was at the funeral, I had Nikki Gilbert from Brownstone sing 2 Patti LaBelle songs. I love Patti LaBelle. Love and Need and Want You, and If Only You Knew. Patti LaBelle come to the studio.
Oh. Now, starstruck?
No, if it wasn't for Regina Bell, I would have been scared to talk to Patti because Regina was so nice. I went in there, introduced myself to Patti, told her about my wife. She teared up, gave me a hug, and she said, thank God for my sister, Regina, because you would have been scared to talk to me, and I needed to hear this story. We took a picture. And
wow.
Yeah, and then, I was interested in hearing. I kind of didn't believe E40 rap like that. I'm like, nigga, I want to see this. He was in there laying on his stomach writing his rhyme. He stood up. And then the other one was, I was like, he ain't doing this. Twista can't rap like that. Right. He came in the studio for about a week or 2. And I said, I'm going in this room to see, because I don't be in the room. That nigga did it. You know what I mean? He did it. And then I wanted to hear.
Do he go straight through, or do he patch in, or?
That nigga be rapping that. I mean, it ain't even the patching, it's the fact that E40 rapped his straight through, then go back to his ad libs. And then I wanted to hear, I didn't believe Scarface's voice sounded like that. Like, I thought they was putting some effect on it.
Right.
But literally when and then I thought he was really serious, and that nigga joked the whole time. He be bagging on you.
Right.
And so like my perception is, he just, but he be telling jokes the whole time. And so he went in, and when he started rapping, he sounded like when he talking to you, he bragged. He sounded like Scarface with no effects. And I was just like, man, that was dope. And, and when Dre was here, I will say that Atlanta showed him the utmost respect. Everybody and they mama came to the, I came home. From Jermaine Dupri, the business, every producer, and what they was telling me is so Dre, they had every room booked. They had the small room, the little room, the big room. They blocked off the mastering room and the production room. And all these different producers was working on beats. And Dre would go in there, and he was like, instead of he and being critical, he would give them stuff what they needed to add to their music and make it better. I'll tell you one story about Dre.
Hold on, so his team booked out every studio.
Yeah, and then all these different producers from Atlanta was in there making beats in all these different rooms.
For him?
Yeah, if you look on the internet, there's a video of him and Tip. That's in the studio. Tip is rapping and Dre in there. It's in black and white. It looked epic.
And he's walking around to these like younger producers like, yo, just fix this.
Yep. They was looking for production for the Detox album. And then, so here's the thing. So Dre, there are certain people in the music industry where back in the days, they didn't want Puffy them in their studios, and they didn't want Wu-Tang because they was be known to have a bunch of people and they would blow your speakers. They say Dre can't hear. He likes stuff so loud. And so we knew this, and we ain't blowing our speakers. So we go in there, there's a way on the SSL, the knob on the SSL,
What's SSL?
the board, the console,
Okay,
that
gotcha.
$1.3 million console. It got a knob. Normally stuff go up to 11. The SSL say 11. Everything go to 10, so it say 11. But the engineers could put a gate on the front of it that'll lower it down. So even though you turn it all the way up, it ain't really going all the way up. So we ready for this fool. Dre come in, he like, put this on, play it. So he played, it ain't as loud, it ain't blowing the speakers. He went over there, and just ungated. He said, he looked at there, he said, boy, I've been working on these things since I was 16, and that was it. He just turned it up. And he said, I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? He bypassed it. You know what I mean? Yeah, he know what he doing.
Yo, that's crazy. So, did you meet Jay-Z?
That was funny.
What was that like?
Jay-Z was there because he was doing a concert at Phillips, so Jeezy had a session, and he came over to holler at Jeezy. And Jeezy asked me to come to the room to meet him. And so I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, he famous. Everybody know him. I'm thinking to myself, how is he going to introduce himself? Is he going to say his name is Sean, Jay, Jigga, whatever, right? So Jeezy's like, I remember he was sitting on the edge of the producer's desk. I walk in, I dap him up. He's like, oh, it's my guy Kurt. He on the studio. I did all this, da-da-da. So he go like this. He dapped me up. I'm like, Kurt. And what do you think he said?
I'm Jay?
No.
What did he say?
One more guess.
Ho?
That's what he said. I said, man, get your ass out. I walked out. I said, I know this nigga didn't just, he went like this. He was like, Hove. I said, man, get out of here, man. That's what I thought. I didn't say nothing to myself. But when I left the room, I said, I know this nigga didn't say his name is Hove. I thought he was going to say Sean. Like, you know what I mean? It was like, Hove. Then when Beyonce came, I didn't go in the room.
Right.
I didn't go in the room with Alicia Keys. Nope. I mean, it's like a twofold thing where sometimes it's like, you know, it's almost like I think of like when you go to a restaurant and sometimes the owner come out or the chef come to your table. Some people want that and some people don't.
Right.
Some people offended when the chef don't come out, and some people be like, what you out here for? Now, as the chef or the owner, sometimes when you come out, then they start asking you for everything. They want to bypass the front desk, the engineers and whatever, and it's directly to you.
Right.
And so sometimes I'll be like, man, I want to go in there and introduce myself, but then it's easier when it just go through the system, you know, like, so
sure.
I'll tell you, I'll give you our, when we did Mariah Carey. Oh. So Mariah, they was worried. This was she on Def Jam, and they was having a hard time getting the album out of her. And I always tell people one of the
What year was it? How far in was she?
Probably about 6 years ago or something.
Okay, gotcha.
And I'll say that one of the mistakes that younger people, artists make, they always be bragging that when they get a budget, they be bragging that they didn't spend a lot of their budget. I didn't use a lot of the money. And I'd be like, use a fool, because if you ain't into them a whole bunch of money, they'll just close you out and drop you. Now, when you sign a Janet Jackson for millions of dollars or Mariah Carey for millions of dollars, you gonna wait 20 years to get that album, because that's how you get your money back, right? So these young dudes are signed with Def Jam, have a $300,000 budget, and be trying not to spend their money. They running around trying to cheap everybody. Kurt, can you give me a deal? These producers are gonna produce it for cheaper. They wanna get everything for the low. And then they wanna be like, I turned in my album, I only spent $80,000. The label be like, drop him. And they never put the album out. They'll eat that 80. Now, if you in them for $1 million or $500,000, right, and they need to get their money back, and I'll be trying to teach people that. So Mariah's in them. You know, she ain't put no album out. Man, they don't want nobody. Tell the receptionist to take the day off. We booking the mastering room, the production room. We don't want your video people there, and we gonna bring our own engineers. And they book it for a week, 15-hour lockouts every day. They had Randy is there from American Idol.
Okay.
Yeah, what up, dude? Yeah. Randy there. Jam is there from Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and one other dude. They make us rent. We had to rent this piano, $200,000 piano. We rented it. They put it in the live room. We had to pay somebody to come tune it. They give us like a 2-page rider of all the stuff that we need. And then the day before she start, the executives from Def Jam fly in, and they want to meet with me to go over the rider to make sure everything's straight.
Right.
So we going through all this stuff, right? Flowers, candy, water, whatever. And then I remember I was at home, and they was like, we can't find this champagne. downtown. And I'm like, well, it's a Total Wine over here. What the hell is it? I'll go get it. Text it to me. They texted to me, and I had to buy a case, and it was like $2,600. I was hurt. I said, man, what kind of wine she drinking? So we get it. And then, we go through the first day, and I remember the A&R dude wanted to meet with me the next day. And so I'm like, man, I hope we killed it. So he's like, man, can I meet with you? I want to talk to you about the session, da-da-da. I'm like, what's up? He's like, man, we needed some little flute champagne glasses, and you guys didn't have them. And I said, was it on the rider? He's like, no, but Mariah asked for it in the middle of the night. And I said, then what happened? He said, your guys went and got it. I said, okay. Then I'm like, was everything else okay? He was like, man, the vending machine took my dollar. I said, get your ass out of my office. I said, man, that's all. I said, that's all. I said, so all of that 2 pages, the $200,000 piano, the flowers, the pedals, everything, the water, the wine, you in here talking about the vending machine took your dollar? I said, we did our job. And I said, we killed it. Now, the crazy part about those sessions, Mariah wouldn't show up till after midnight. So all 3 of them sitting in the studio, 12 hours. Randy, Jam, everybody. We just sitting there. They paying for the whole building. And she don't, now to her credit, what I tell people, she wouldn't leave till 10 o'clock. But they would have the studio from noon until the next day. And,
Why were they doing sitting there? What are they doing?
Because they didn't know when she want to come. They had to be ready.
They just got to be ready.
Yeah, and they never touched that piano. Never.
They never even touched the piano.
And I remember my engineer, they was like, man, she came in like Mariah. Like, I don't even know if her feet touched the ground. She had the hair. She had, we couldn't talk to her. She had an assistant. We did it, you know what I mean? And so we did them, I think we did a week and a half, and we hit it. We killed. She never complained. And I always tell people, that's why I like picky people. I like doing the Wu-Tang sessions. I like doing the Bad Boy sessions. I like doing the Braxton sessions. I like doing the hardest people to deal with, because most of the time, them people gonna tell you what they want, and all you gotta do is do it. Yeah. It's like going out of town, and like I tell people, when you go out of town, that hotel is finna make or break your trip. Yeah. When you stick that key in there, you be like, this shit better be right. Yeah. It better have my extra pillows that I asked for. And when you open the door, if your room is straight, man, you can deal with everything else. But if they asked you to do something, like you'd be like, I got a kid, I need a high seat, and it ain't in there, you got to call and you got to wait. It just set in. So we try to be as prepared as possible, and we love the picky people, because the picky people going to tell you everything that they want, and they going to be happy, because most people just mess up and don't do it. Right. Monica going to tell you, I want some throat coat, and I don't want no cold air in the vocal booth. And I want this type of water, and I want this many, and then you just do it. R. Kelly gonna tell you, I need this, I need that, I want this, I want this, I want this, I don't want this, and you just do it. You know what I mean? And I remember one time with, people be so mad, but we was doing R. Kelly, and they try to tell, they'll tell you, hey, he has a food budget. Most artists, they'll be like, the Young Bloods get $100. Beyonce is unlimited. And I'm gonna tell you this, I always say I can tell when an artist's gonna do good by how quick we gonna get paid. When we did Beyonce, they FedEx the check the next day. Some of these other artists, we'd be waiting $30, $45, and I'd be like, man, that's gonna be a problem, because if they ain't paying us on time, they probably ain't paying the promotion persons on time, the DJs on. Beyonce, they was asking me for the invoice, man. You know what I mean? And so they FedExed it, they paid to pay me. They FedExed that check. And so with the R. Kelly stuff, we working, and they like, yeah, we're gonna try to, his food budget be about $300 a day. That's what they say. Man, R. Kelly order $400 for lunch, $500 for dinner. And so I would call the label and be like, hey, and they like, well, what are we gonna do? Yeah, you get him whatever you want. And they literally, that's how we would roll. And they would pay his stuff. They generate so much money, and it's like, they're trying to get them in the studio. They want them to be comfortable, and they need them to be creative and get them records out. So when we doing Mariah, hey, dude, she got a food budget, get whatever she want. Damn, she want flowers, Snickers, get it. We'll pay for it, no problem, Curtis. Right. R. Kelly, no. Rapper, they got $75. $75, and you better not go over, or they don't have a food budget. Right. And that's one of the things too that we provide. We've been around long enough that, and they're friends in the industry at these labels, and so if we doing R. Kelly, R. Kelly, he's done our longest sessions. He's been in there 54 hours straight. He works he might book 30 days. And so the label will be like, well, Curtis, if you need us to pay you after the first week, why not? We just hold the bill. Yeah. We hold it for 30 days. We add them up, all that food, we prepay for it, and then we send it in. And, we able to do that. And I always now I can tell these admin people at these labels don't have as many assistants, and it's not as much of them, so they're a little bit overworked. And I think one of the things that we give them is peace of mind. So if they we might get a text in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock or 10 o'clock saying, hey, Young Thug or Young Gunner or what's his name want to get in the studio, do y'all have a room and an engineer? They know they can go to sleep. Whereas if you go to another studio, you might get a call at 2 o'clock in the morning from that artist like, who the hell is this and this, and they messed. Right. So we get a lot of work. The labels just be like, look, man, it's Sunday. It's Christmas. We did Dre, that Give Me the Green Light with John Legend.
Oh, word.
We recorded Dre's verse on Christmas because I remember we was closed. But we try to say we closed, but we available if somebody want to work. And then I remember KP was like, man, Kurt, I know you're going to kill me. Dre in town for the holidays. He want to come in and work. Shit, let's go. We went in that big room. Andre spit his verse. And, and so the labels are closed. But we have a relationship. Hey, Curtis, I'm authorizing this session. When we come back after the holidays, we'll go ahead and PO it and boom, and we can go. But if you're trying to go to another studio or somebody you don't have that relationship, or the studio need the money. Like sometimes you work with these contractors on your house and they want a deposit up front and they want their money to go get the equipment. We ain't really like that, man. We in a position where we can do the work and be professional, take a purchase order, bill it, give you 30 days, and do stuff like that or whatever.
There's a personal thing for me. Were you in? Did they come record when like the State Property, Beanie Siegel days, like the Young Guns and all that kind of stuff?
I don't think we did a lot of that stuff. Yeah. I know we did Beanie because I think Beanie was on a remix with somebody, but we didn't do a lot of. I think the only thing we got a Jay-Z plaque because we did Pimp C's verse on Big Pimpin'. And so we did that there. And then I don't know that we worked on anything else. We did some, we need plaques. I think we worked on the last 2 Kanye stuff.
Really?
Yeah, because Kelly Price.
Did Kanye come in?
He's been there. He used to be there. The crazy part, and I shouldn't have gave them their stuff because they probably lost it, but when he was doing the stuff, he did a song that came out on Tip's album. I think it was called I'm Just Doing My Job. But at that time, he was in the studio for about 2 weeks, and they did about 8 records. And I used to always ask Jason, man, why y'all not? And I kept their stuff, and I was like, you need to take this. But they did a lot of records. But yeah, he's been there. And then how we did your stuff to get your rig. Yeah. At the one point, he didn't want to go on studio, so he was recording in his hotel. So we put a rig together and rented it to him with some mics. Gotcha. And they did that. But the last album, I think Kelly Price, whatever song she sang on that Pablo album or whatever, we worked on that. We need to get a plaque.
Right.
And I was telling my homeboy, because there's some pictures Mark Pitts posted, and I always know we did it. We did Run It and them remixes for Chris Brown before he was Chris Brown. And we don't have a plaque. What I was telling him, I said he was working with Sean Garrett, so the section report may say Sean Garrett. I'm like, but we worked on them albums. We worked on the first album and whatever. So it's a lot of stuff that that we've done. I didn't even know the person she said was in the studio, Kid Cudi. I mean, it'd be so many people because I leave now at 2. Right. Most of the bigger artists come overnight. And my biggest fear, man, I'll be on Instagram and I probably do it like once every 6 months because I'll be so scared to look. You can hit places. Right. And I put in Patchwerk and I hit recent. Man, I be seeing girls and it just be like, I'll be like, man, oh my God. You know what I mean? And so it's weird, man.
Yo, so you recorded Wu-Tang?
Yeah, we did Raekwon. I know we worked on Raekwon's and Mobilarity.
Word.
We got a plaque for that. And then we didn't work on their first album, but we've worked with different ones of them.
What was it like having them all? Was they all in that thing?
Nah, because, my homeboy, before their first album came out, my homeboy Jason Staten, he's from Lansing, he used to do national street promotions. And he brought them to Michigan State. And me and him was driving around the Midwest, and I remember everybody, who these karate dudes and whatever. So and that was Raekwon tried to beat up one of the dudes because he ordered his pizza wrong. I remember that.
No way. What happened?
Yeah, he was like, "You trying to play me, son?" They ordered the wrong pizza. They might have put pepperoni on it, and he was trying to whoop the dude's butt. But by the time, we came to the studio, it's like a mutual respect. Like I tell people, when you walk into a place and you see cigarette ashes and stuff all over, then you act accordingly. When you walk into a place and it's nice and people are respectful, then you kind of give what you get. So we didn't have you got to remember, a lot of times it wasn't a lot of black people on the technical side that owned studios. So these people were going in rock studios and country studios, and they weren't comfortable with all them people around.
Right.
They thought our kicks was too loud and the music was too loud and it was hitting too hard. But we like, come on in, man. We ain't tripping. Turn it up. Crank it up. Y'all smoke. We got a smoking room. Go ahead. Oh, y'all got 30 people? No problem. We got a lounge and whatever. So that's why I keep saying it's weird that if you ever had an opportunity to look at recording studios before we opened in 95, you couldn't do all the stuff. We was the first studio to do listening parties. We're the first studio we changed it to do birthday parties, to turn into like an event facility, podcasts. We was the first people to start paying engineers and put them on the payroll, and they worked for the studio before they were independent clients. You couldn't get into a commercial studio, and commercial studios were stale. They were all, like the guy that designed ours, we barely picked him. He got that job because when all his work, it looked like it was white and sterile, and it was squares, and they looked like a hospital. And I remember I called him to tell him that we ain't going with them. He was like, well, Curtis, those are all the designs that our clients picked. We're really looking forward to working with you and Bob because we know you guys are going to allow us to do some cool stuff. We got all of this stuff planned out with curves and different angles, and that's what sold them. And we got them, and we went crazy. We freaked it. And then so all of this stuff that's going on, man, you weren't able. You think you was able to get in Bobby Brown's studio and throw a listening party or do a podcast or have a meet and greet? You couldn't go into Jermaine's. We changed all of that stuff, man. You know what I mean? I don't never really pound on our chest, but I just tell people is you go back and look at studios. Studios weren't open to the public.
Yeah.
You had to be in the music industry to get in them studios, man. And we changed that. So now I look at all these, the whole model is the model that we put in place. Hiring the engineers, good staff, multiple rooms, multi-purpose, being able to do video, audio, parties, listening parties. We did all. The first one, I'm telling you a lot of stuff. You cut this. The first thing, this is what, I'm going to tell you this story. This almost broke me. One of my girls that worked at the front, her name was Frances. She came up with this concept. She called it the Producer's Ball.
The Producer's Ball.
Yep. And we're going to have a bunch of different producers that's up and coming, come in and play some of their stuff. This is up and coming. So we had Polo the Don. Y'all didn't really,
Upcoming.
We had Justice League. We had Drummer Boy. Timberland came through, which was a problem. And
why was it a problem?
Because it was too big. So, and then Jazzy Faye, a bunch of people, right? This was early when they career. And so prior to that, the week before, we did our grand opening where we opened the big room in our 10-year anniversary. So I had 4 police officers from Atlanta outside. I had valet and I had security in. We was prepared for it. I knew we was gonna have 300-400 people. It wasn't no problem. This party, I just thought we just doing a producer's ball. It ain't gonna be no big deal. A few people gonna come, and I didn't have any police or security, and I lost control of the room. It was probably about 300-400 people in the studio, in the parking lot, and everything, and I couldn't control it, and they wouldn't listen to me. And I remember, and so we had these producers playing stuff, and then Timberland's, it was his assistant came in there, and he was in New York. He was just rude. Man, let me play this. Timbo on the phone. Let me play this track. I'm like, you ain't part of the program, and I couldn't control it. I literally couldn't get to the other side of the room to stop nobody from doing nothing. And we lost control, and so for a whole year, I wouldn't do another listening party. And mind you, we had did Jeezy's listening party, Ludacris, Akon, Rick Ross, and I was so scarred off. And we had, what the problem was, they blocked the dumpster off and all that food from the grand opening. We didn't schedule nobody to pick it up, and they wouldn't come get it. So by the time they would come, we had trash bags everywhere. It was maggots all over the place. It was so bad, the homeless dude wouldn't take $100 to clean it up. And so when we did that, it scarred me up, and I was like, I ain't never doing that again. We can just collect our money with 2 or 3 people here. And then people kept calling me, and then I said, you know what? I need to put together a package that if I do it, then I won't be mad. So that's why our listening parties cost about $5,500. I make people pay for valet. You don't have an option.
Right.
You're gonna pay for 4 Atlanta police officers, 3 security. You're gonna pay to get my carpet clean. You're gonna pay the maid to come in and clean up that night, and you're gonna pay me for an extra dumpster fee. And I'm gonna make you rent speakers so you don't blow mine out to put it in the front of the room. So it's like so everybody be when we do them. That's why we only do the big ones, because it's like $5,500, and they come at me like, you know, Rick Ross would be like, well, we already got our security. I said, he your security. He ain't gonna listen to me.
Right.
We hiring whatever, and you know. And then I remember we did one of the ones. I tried to be cool with Rich Homie Quan, and he was like, we gonna do one, and I promise it won't be no more than 10 people. And I'm like, I'm telling you, man, we ain't letting them people in. Man, it got so bad that people was hopping the fence. And he came with 5 people, so his parents couldn't get in, and it was a headache. And I was like, I'll never bend again, you know, because people want to tell you that they ain't gonna do all this stuff, but they can't control it. And then, I mean, you know, one of the cool ones, the biggest, we did R. Kelly's, but they were so professional because he's like, they gave us a guest list, and they was like, if they ain't on the guest list, we don't. So we was like, you can't come in. And we did that one or whatever. But, you know, I learned a lesson. That producer's ball, but again, nobody was in studios. You couldn't come. You didn't have events at studios, man. Right. You couldn't go tour. I'm the studio owner, and they wouldn't even show me their studio and show me the rates back when we started in 95. Right. So all of this stuff that you see now, this new model, is what we put in place. And like I said, a lot of people, everybody, Coach K got 50,000 square feet right now. And he's trying to do a studio, and he calls me about the architect and who designing it. And so I tell him some stuff, and then he brings his architect to the studio to look around. I show him the stuff and all this stuff, and I make myself available. Stone them, when Akon them, every different studio that you see. It's to the point now where, like, a lot of people, when they see reality shows, they'll call me and be like, they in our studio. And I would be like, nigga, every studio ain't ours. But it's even now when I look at stuff, I'll be like, is that our studio? Because they copied our diffuser. Right. They copied our panels. They copied our ceiling. So a lot of people come in and bring their architect and be like, I want you to build this room. I'm doing the B room. And so when Jeff them at DTP, last year around this time, I was going to their studio because Jeff wanted to build out their rooms. And then when Jason Jeter's doing his place, I go out to his place. We went to India's house, India Ari, and helped design her stuff. Her dad built it. We helped design it. We went out to Montel Jordan's church. They didn't hire us, but they consulted, and then they went with somebody else. So we be out in all these different places. Wow. Jason just did a retreat at a cabin 2 weeks ago, and we sent 2 engineers out. Luther built his rig, designed it.
Shouts out to Luther.
Took the mics, and we went out to the camp, staffed it, and did it for a week, and they never had no problems. So we be doing all this different stuff, and my philosophy is just different. I be like, if Atlanta has multiple great rooms, it makes Atlanta better. It doesn't make sense to have one good room and all of this BS. So I'll always try to reach out to people that's doing home studios and doing stuff that need help, because if we can help, we want to help. You know what I mean?
Kurt, I appreciate you coming through, man. This is like, it was like a lesson in Atlanta history. It was saying like it is a staple in Atlanta. Like, you guys are stamped in Atlanta history because, and I'm realizing that it's a mix of, one, you know what you're doing sonically. Like, you just, like, who would think that you're gonna treat the electricity? Or who would think, like, when we went to the studio, you said you had like rubber on top of the roof.
Yeah, to kill the raindrop.
To kill the raindrop. Like, you're thinking past, and then, you know, we're going through, all right, making sure it's not a square room, right. And it has to be like, you know, everything, but almost everything about sound.
You know what, I do want to say this too. So, like, what I remember, I think I was watching them. I'm competitive, so when I was watching them verses, it was like a long time ago, and I was like, you know what? I'm about to get my 20 songs ready in case another studio want to challenge me.
Let's go.
Right. So here was the problem, Dave. So I got my little leather binder, and I started writing down songs that I know we did. I'm like, we did Ether. Nas did his verse Ether there. That ain't
Nas did his Ether verse at Patchwerk?
Yeah, we did the Pig Pimpin'.
Were you in the room? Were you in that room?
He left his rhyme book, and I got it. And I kept it in the office, and I was reading it, and he was like writing. It looked like he was writing a movie. It was real vivid, like his rhyme, the intro, the sun goes down, whatever. So I'm like, I know what this is. I put it in my office. I keep it for years. And Mike threw it away.
No!
And then, so I'm mad, and last year, KRS-One came up there and he left his rhyme book. I said, what? And they called me. I said, put it in the office. I came up there the next day. I seen Rapture, step in. This was last year. I seen old rhyme.
Oh, my goodness.
I said, let me call him and tell him he left this. And he was like, I'm coming back up there today. And I gave it back to him. And but I be wanting to keep that stuff, man.
Nas's rhyme book.
He left it when he wrote Ether.
He wrote Ether.
Yeah. And so I'm going through songs, right? I'm like, okay, Jeezy stuff. But then I said, that's too much. 25 years, I can't pick 20 songs. So then I said, well, let me go to, because here's the problem is that when you're doing these whole albums, okay, so I'm gonna ask you, which OutKast song you gonna pick? Which Goody Mob?
Yeah.
Which Jeezy? Which Tip? You doing 3-4 albums. Yeah. Which Sierra? Which Monica? Which TLC? Which Waka? Which whoever, right? So I said, you know what? I'm gonna knock this down. Let me get 20 artists. I started writing. So out of respect, I said, I'm gonna start in Atlanta, but we done did records for Snoop, all over the place, So I started writing down artists. I said, fuck it, I can't even do it. Because I couldn't narrow it down to 20 artists because then I would have to go 20 artists. You couldn't even
narrow down to 20 artists?
Because then I would go, like, if I'm looking at Sierra album, what am I gonna take? Okay, everybody, the commercial is goodies, but I like that Ooh record that Ludacris did. Yeah. And then, whatever. I used to have a demo when Missy did the vocals on Goodies. Ooh, I would hear her voice. She was rapping it. It was dope. And I said, I'm going to keep this forever. And my damn computer crashed. I never took it off the drive. But so that was my problem because then I started looking at like, okay, we did Tip's first 3 or 4 albums, Jeezy's first 3 or 4, 5 or 6 of Gucci's, all these different artists. So then I couldn't even, and I said, I'd always be, a lot of people call me when they do these documentaries or shows about Atlanta and they get left off. And they be like, man, they left me off. So I'm real conscious about that if I do something to make sure that I at least offer everybody to be a part of it. So if I was to put out a top 20 songs at Patchwerk and leave off the Oh Let's Do It remix, that ain't cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I just was like, so when they did the battle, we put out we did a playlist of Gucci. If you can find it, it's called Show the Work on Spotify and Apple. It's 79 records that go back and forth. It started with Gucci, Jeezy, and those are all some of the records, all of them. That ain't even all of them. We stopped at 79. 79 records that we worked on. So it's a playlist on Spotify and Apple Music. It's called Show the Work. It's underneath our Patchwerk thing, and it's 79 songs that they worked on at the studio.
Unbelievable.
And so then that's why I was telling Oz, I said, well, maybe we're going to have to do years because even if we can't do decades, we can't do 5 years because we literally now, we usually do it between 11 to 13 sessions a day right now. And so, we start around 10 and finish around 6 every morning, 7 days a week. So if you try to do a year, 13 times 365, you know what I mean? It's hard. So that's why I keep saying I can't really. So I'm like, are we going to do R&B? Are we going to do gospel? Are we going to do hip hop, Southern, East Coast? Like, how are we going to make a playlist? So that Gucci Jeezy was our first time that we ever put something kind of out there because I didn't want to disrespect people. And I said, well, we got to figure it out. Like, either you're going to start in 95 or what do? Do you pick the criteria? The album had to go platinum. I don't want to do that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like, it's big. We did, we was doing, That's Just My Baby Daddy.
Oh, word.
We did that record.
Yeah.
We recorded it, mixed it. We did My Boo. You know what I mean? We did Shorty Swing My Way.
What?
Like, them records, that's why I be telling. We did the one with Michael Bivins, When Will I See You Smile Again, when he was singing over the bass. We did most of that bass album, Rhythm and Quad. So that's why I be telling people, I be telling my wife, and I was like, you was reaching to me and didn't even know it. It's these records that you don't know that we did. Like, you know what I mean? And so you got to go way back to the Booty Shake. We was doing that stuff.
Dang, that's crazy. Yo, man, it's just so much history. I just want to go to lunch with you and just keep talking to you, just because there's so many stories that we didn't tell. Like, you got
we struggling, man. We working on our documentary for our 25th anniversary, and right now, the cut down. I mean, I think we interviewed like 19 people and we talked to them for an hour. And so we had all this footage, and then we got it cut down to 4 hours. And it's so many holes in it. Like, I mean, it's too much. And so that's why I was like, I really don't know how to wrap around it. And so, like, I was like, when you asked me to do it, because normally I don't be going out telling a whole bunch of stories. And I was like, really, you can't wait. If 25 years is hard, it's just going to get harder at 26, 29, 30.
For sure.
And more memories keep get created, and you can't really go back. And so it's hard for us, like on our timeline, we try to celebrate projects. So I think we just in 1 week, we put up Ludacris's album. It was 19 years old. And then a day or two later, I think we had a T.I. album up. And then a few days earlier, we had a Missy album. And then so almost every day, it's like an anniversary. And we try to, and a lot of times they don't even be posting it. Like I'll put up the anniversary of this OutKast or this, and I'll tell Jason, it's your birthday. And we'll, whatever. So we trying to do it, and but we create more memories. You know what I mean? We steadily create new stuff with some of these new people, and that's why I was telling Oz, I said, with the documentary, these old stories are cool, but we not dead. Yeah. And so you got to round it off and bring in the young Dolphs and the little babies and the other people that's come, the people that are new. Yeah. We have to tell that story, because some of these people walk in the studio when we doing tours of these high schools, and they don't know who OutKast is. Yeah. It's like a museum. Dang. And then we get over to the Travis Scott. Oh, y'all did Travis Scott? Y'all did Kendrick Lamar? And we like, we ain't dead. So it's a weird dynamic to pay respect. Like the other day, YZ called me, thinking of a master plan, and Wise Intelligent from Poor Righteous Teachers. You remember them? Yeah. Yeah, they called me. He's like, Kurt, we at the studio. And I'm in Akron. I said, Wise Intelligent is at the studio? Yeah. So I never met him. I'm looking at the traffic I said, man, I can't come back. And I said, look, man, I'm gonna give you a discount on the rate if you take a picture in the studio. If you don't take a picture, I'm blah, blah, blah. He sent me the thing or whatever. And so when KRS was there, I went in and talked to him. Wow. And I just told him, I said, out of respect for you, you just gonna pay for the engineer. The studio is free. Good. And then they wanted to come back the next day, and they was trying to get that deal. I said, hey, man, I paid my respects to hip-hop. I'm going to give you the best rate that we got for what you're trying to do. Yeah. And I understand that. But, like, so when those older people, I think a lot of times, sometimes they think, like, Kool Mo D was there with KRS-One. Oh, wow. And, like, when Havoc them from Mobb Deep, they be thinking people don't know him. Yeah. I'm like, nigga, we know you. Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's cool to work on those projects like that. And it's cool to see them people light up. Yeah, when people still recognize them, sure, you know what I mean? Sure. Yeah,
man, Kurt, I appreciate you swinging by, man. I do like to make predictions on the podcast. What do you see yourself accomplishing, or where do you see yourself at in the next 5 to 10 years, so that I can watch this 5 to 10 years from today and say, yo, Kurt said he was going to do it.
So for us, I'm at 2026. 2026 we'll be done paying for the studio. We won't owe any more money.
Free and clear.
Yeah, we basically, I'm just telling numbers, man, it costs, our mortgage is like $25,000 every month, man. We've been paying that forever. We probably pay like $110,000 in interest in every year. So we refinanced and put it on a 10-year note in 2018, but we pay an extra, and so we're gonna pay it off 2 years early. So 2026, I would say, gonna be my year. So 2026, right now we're blessed. We don't have any credit card debt. We don't have any leases. So at the end of every month, we always say we don't owe anybody. But if we can remove that mortgage, that multiplies, man. In 4 months, 25,000 is 100. Yeah. In 8 months, that's 200, 300. Then we'll be moving into, we never really use the studio like these other people where they putting cars and houses underneath it. It's free and clear, no lines of credit or nothing. So then maybe we'll start expanding. My philosophy is like, I don't feel like I own it until it's paid off. So I paid off my house probably about 5 years ago, paid off my wife's student loans about 6 months ago. She owed about 62 on her house. I flipped the house and paid 32 on it, so we owe 30. So I'm trying to pay off her house. I got 2 condos in Atlantic Station. I want everything paid off and all the cars by 2026 to be free. And then that way my daughter, she's 7, she'll be 12. Now you just go around and collect the rent. And and if we win, it's gonna change, just like we changed the music industry because we won and we figured it out and we shared the information. So as we've been doing these podcasts and podcast production, I done learned a lot. So we got a podcast, I already shot 24 episodes. It's called an origin story with the ATL greats.
Oh.
And we go through, and our thought process, Bone Crusher's the host. And I'm like, Bone, everybody think of Atlanta history from LaFace on.
Yeah.
They don't realize it was a history here before LaFace, so we go before and capture that. And then we working on our documentary. We got our reality show. It went to a production company that kind of picked it up, and they kind of shopping it around. And I'm thinking that with this documentary that we doing now, once I figure that out, because nobody helps. You know, all the people that done stuff, I done called them. They don't really help.
Wow.
But once we figure it out, we'll be able to share that information and do more. And then it'll open it up, because when we do it, we're not going to do it by taking nobody else's money. We're going to figure it out and do it and figure out how to do it. And then we'll be able to open up the doors for a whole bunch of other people. Wow. So that's like, you know, that's what we on, man. You know, like owning it. And I had somebody, I'll tell you this story. It's 3 people. 2 of them I ain't going to tell you. They artists. And they was trying to buy the studio. And one ended up buying the studio, which is cool. The other one, he was like, damn, I'm glad you know your worth. But this other dude that ain't an artist, so I'm going to tell you, he used to write for the Atlanta Business Chronicle. He called me about a month ago, asking me about buying the studio. And I told him, you know, somebody called me earlier in the year, was at $5 million, and I gave him an analogy. I said, you know how you sitting on the couch and somebody ring your doorbell and you don't even get up? I said, that's how I did at the $5 million. And then I said, you know, at about $7 million, I might look on my ring cam and see who at the door. And so they was like, well, we think that's fair. And then I called my partner and we agreed that, man, we've been running this race for 25 years and we right at the finish line. In 5 more years, we're going to finish it. So we ain't selling. And, you know, even though the offer is a lot of money, it change your life, but we want to own that real estate, because if we own that, like even if you just own the building, and even if, Lord and behold, we ever wanted to sell the business, well, that business will now be paying us $20,000 a month. So you're like, we never get, and then all of that stuff around the studio, the price in Midtown is out of here. And then the last thing I'll say is I was listening to a podcast, and I heard a dude in New York talk about air rights. I'll tell you about that. You know, air rights.
The space above.
Yeah. So I get our parcel ID. I called down the city of Atlanta and I said, what is our limits on our air rights? They pulled it up. It was like, 1094 Hemp Hill, you in Midtown, unlimited. You can go up as high as you want to. And I said, I got another question. How far can I go under the ground? They said, as far as you want. You can dig down as far as you want. And all these developments around us, they digging in the ground, building parking lots, and they going up. So I really know how much we worth. You know what I mean? Ooh. And then you look at us, what I tell people was funny, from our corner, it goes Texaco, Burger King, McDonald's, Patchwerk. But in a straight line is Atlanta. Across is Chick-fil-A, Waffle House, Patchwerk, and Antico. That's Atlanta. That real estate is out of here. So, you know, we just sitting on it and just trying to finish the race, man. It's going to change the game for everybody.
When somebody come to you, Kurt, I got 10 for you. What are we doing?
Nah. Because we don't keep stuff as black people. Like, that's why it was important to, like I tell people, you know, a lot of us hit licks. I didn't hit a lick. We've been grinding for 25 years. And so it's not like I had a whole bunch of money to just pay off my house. You know, I was able to do it. And then, you know, I didn't have a whole bunch of money to pay off my wife's damn college loans. We saved up and did it. And then now, you know, I'm buying and flipping and using that money to kind of pay off these other properties and stuff. So I never hit a lick. And so it's like, once we get to that point, you know, we're going to be able to change the game, man. We'll be financing your building. You ain't going to go to the bank. I'm going to be like, look, you give me that interest. Yeah, that $80,000 a year on interest, we're going to buy that. You do the loan, and we'll use that as collateral. That changes the game. And that's why I be looking at, like, I look at what we be paying the bank. I be about to call Ludacris and be like, man, you just need to finance this. The collateral is worth way more than we own. I would rather pay you monthly. You know, and that's like, I said, once we get in that position, that'll be the position that I'll play. It's a whole bunch of people that got small places. They don't need a whole bunch of money, but they can't get no loans. So, you know, if the collateral's there and the business there, you do the financing, man. Make the money off the money. So that's why I was like, a lot of times I see a lot of people, and I be praying for people in the industry that have been in it as long as I am. And I just be like, man, you got a 20-year career. When it's over, I hope you got something to show for it. Like, you hit licks throughout the career and got good looks, But we got a tangible building that ain't no debate about what it's worth, and tangible equipment and a tangible 25 years worth of business books to put a value on it. And so I feel good about, like I say, my goal is I just want to be able to go on the cruise. When my homeboys say we going out of town, there's 2 reasons people can't go: time or money. They don't have the time, they can't go. They got a slave to their clock, or they don't have the money. So when everybody start tripping, when we 50, 55, I want to hit all of them trips.
All of them.
Yeah. And I'm down to 10 to 2, so I got a lot of time. And then, once I don't, like I keep saying, man, I don't count no money when I owe somebody. So once we get this bank, out of my pocket or out of our pocket, it's going to change the game. Then all of the stuff, the innovative stuff that we doing, we'll be able to do more. And it's like I'm learning that people that you think that are in a position that should be able to give you advice and help you, they really not in a position. And so it ain't really them that don't want to help you, it's their pride of admitting that they really can't do nothing. Because I'll be looking at all these people and I'm like, but you did a documentary and you did a podcast and you got advertising, so look, I want to do it. And then, we tend to deal with people how you deal with people. So if I'm real helpful and we friends, I'm thinking I can just call one of my friends that already did it and be like, well, help me like I would help you, or actually help me like I already did help you.
Right.
Why I got to struggle and try to figure this shit out? Because you don't want to admit that you really ain't the dude. And so I'm learning that with people, and I'm like, well, you know what? We went through the process with the recording thing, and we was able to change the culture in the industry. So on this media side with video and stuff like that, I'm figuring that out as well.
Solid. Kurt, again, man, thank you so much, man. I want you to, I'm gonna do a quick commercial real quick, just let everybody know how to find you, and then close out with some words of wisdom for the people, okay? This episode is sponsored, as always, by The Morning Meetup, themorningmeetup.com, the only community that gathers every single day, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 9 a.m., and we learn entrepreneurship. We have 200-300 people on the call every single morning, okay? There's a space for us to grow. You could just go to themorningmeetup.com, start your $1 trial for 7 days. If you like us, stay. If not, you invested $1. So make sure you join the program, okay? So Kurt, man, please, again, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for taking time out of your day, man. You are, not only is your business and your building legendary, but you are a legend yourself, because you're creating something in that industry, right? Like you're creating the blueprint. I look at somebody like AG, right? Legend, he created a blueprint. I think you're doing the same thing in terms of studio. So please let people know how they can find you, how they can connect with you, and then close us out.
So, for me, the studio's information are all our social media is at Patchwerk or at Patchwerk Studios. We put a gang of content on our YouTube page. It's just Patchwerk Studios. And my personal stuff is at Patchwerk Studios.
I love it.
Yeah. And then, like I always tell people, man, I'm just an adamant believer in dreams. And I'm not a dream killer. So I be telling people, man, my word of advice is don't let anybody kill your dream. And your vision is your vision. And you see it clear as day. And just because somebody else doesn't see it doesn't mean it can't happen. So, just keep dreaming and then put the work behind the dream, and do what you was put here to do is be great. And just practice, man, and read and be the source of the information, because a lot of people ain't gonna help you.
Big facts. I love it. Listen, man, go out, get you some social proof, go build something and teach somebody else how to do it. Okay. We are out of here, man. Peace.